Hello, welcome to the Honest Heresy. I'm your host, Rob. And it's been a little while since I've made a video, specifically because I've been super focused on playing the Horus Heresy and, most importantly, running an event for the Horus Heresy. That's what this video is going to be about. You'll have seen from the title, I saved the Horus Heresy. I want to say I apologize for the title, but I'm really hoping you'll join me watching this video or join me in this conversation I'm about to have about the Horus Heresy, because I think it's really, really important for you to play and enjoy playing games. And also it's important to me because I want to play a bunch of games like I just did this weekend. I'm just fresh off running a Horus Heresy event, and I'd like more people to play, and I'd like to make it more accessible to play. And I think that there is a bunch of problems and also a bunch of solutions that we can talk about in this video, and that's what the video is going to be about. So I hope the title wasn't too controversial, and I hope you're pretty excited about joining me on this journey. Let's start with the problem, shall we? Now, number one, I love the Horus Heresy. So one of the questions, I put some pictures up on like a bunch of my different socials over the weekend. I haven't got any Horus Heresy socials, so it's just me, Don Roberto El Honesto, long story. I put a bunch of pictures up of the event from this weekend. And I got asked by Pete a question, actually. Genuine question, Rob, what's gripped you and what's got you excited about the game? And I put several things. Narrative expression through rules, which is something I absolutely love. They play or create experiences thanks to mechanics. I used to play Heresy in the past, as many of you who watch this channel know. And if you don't know, I used to play Heresy in the past. But I like the setting. I think the setting's great. I like the factions. I love kit bashing, so I love the WYSIWYG. I love like building different units. I love doing different loadouts. I love character design, unit design, and a bunch of different stuff. So that is like just a quick example of me just kind of like supporting it over just this weekend alone. But yeah, I love the Horus Heresy as a game, but also specifically the rules. And I am a gamer before I'm a painter, before I am a lore guy, although I think I'm pretty okay at painting, not great, but okay. And the lore I'm really into. I think I've done, I don't know, 20 Heresy books. I know that's not as many as some people, and maybe more than some people. I don't think you need to, I don't think we need a purity test for how much you're into it, but I'm excited about the Horus Heresy, and I like it. However, the big problem since the game launched is that it has terrible missions. And not only does it have terrible missions, it has terrible mission design. So one of the things that we should talk about before we talk about anything else is how you win a game in the Horus Heresy. And I know that's a bit of a controversial statement straight off the bat, because Horus Heresy players like, it's a narrative. It's a narrative. I like to break narrative, the term narrative, into two different types of narrative. There's expansive world-building narrative that you get, and then you have emergent narrative. So as an example, if you're playing Ultramarines versus, I don't know, Dark Mech or AdMech, or as an example, they already have their own intrinsic narrative that they have. Emergent narrative would be that your squad beats mine on an objective to win the game. That's an emergent narrative that happens inside of the game. It's not a mechanic. It is a mechanical thing, but it's also a story. And you can tell stories off the back of that. I think an event should be something where you're able to play a bunch of games and the both expansive and emergent narrative exist. However, even with all of those things taken into account, how do you win a game? What happens? How do you win? A simple answer is you win a game via the core rulebook. You win a game via victory points. So many of you, and almost everyone who's currently playing the Heresy, will obviously know this. So these are all put into quite a small section of the rulebook. We've got maps. We have got victory points and how you score them, how you control objective markers, and some secondaries like Slay the Warlord and Giant Killer and Last Man Standing and First Strike. These are all additional ways to score victory points. And I win a game if I have more victory points than you have victory points. Super simple. Okay, Rob, that's pretty fair. That's okay. Now, in the old world, as an example, another game system that I cover, or Age of Sigmar uses victory points as its mechanic for how you win. An old world uses kill points for how you win, although they've added a bunch of secondaries, which give you additional kill points, I guess. So they've added that in as well. But for Heresy, this is just points and points, no kill points available, which is fine. And actually, maybe there's an entire other video we could talk about the pros and cons of kill point style games. Generally, they end up making the game more killy, therefore less interactive as a con. Pro, it's awesome blowing everyone's stuff up. There's a lot more to it, but we could get into that in more detail in the future. So victory points is your win path. And the problem with the Heresy is fundamentally it's broken at launch. Now, that isn't a surprise specifically. By the way, core rules, army rules, I have, as of yet, bumped up against almost no, I bumped almost no problems. Yes, the rules are really verbose. Yes, the rules are really detailed. But actually, almost all the time, I know every situation a rule is intended to play and how it works. Not like Old World. That's not the same. And also not like Age of Sigmar, a more streamlined game. So actually, I found the Heresy rules to be the most clear. So it's not a criticism that the game itself is broken, but the mechanics for scoring are broken. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about some of the missions. So some of the missions, specifically we'll talk about Mission 3, which is terrible. Mission 3 has, I think it has a couple of objectives. Let's call it 3 objectives. And you go in, you put them in the middle of the board or somewhere near the middle. The first time they're scored, they flip from being worth 3 points down to 2 points or something similar. In a 4-turn game, that doesn't seem too aggressive. Although obviously, if I go first, move on to all the objectives, score, flip, my opponent now has less points that they can score on the board. This entire problem is exacerbated by the idea of line. Every time I have a unit with the line keyword, what happens is I score bonus points for each objective I hold. This can rack up in crazy ways, especially if your line units, let's call it line 2, is not as strong as a unit like line 3, like demons or solar can get. And if you're running a army that's not as good, like AdMech has struggled on scoring, then line 1 means the math just doesn't work. You will fundamentally lose at deployment before you even play. And that's bad mission design. Like, that's how line works. Let's talk about Vanguard, another way to score victory points. And this is quite good. If a unit is holding an objective and I kill them and I defeat them, great. Then, or if I defeat them or kill them, I'm going to get my Vanguard points. That's the bonus for doing that. However, the negative is that I can never hold an objective worth more than 1 victory point. So if an objective was 3 victory points, Vanguard can only score 1 victory point. Okay, not bad, but you've moved on to an objective, scored 3. You've scored an additional 3 for being line. I charge over and I kill you as Vanguard 3. You're statistically still 3 or 2 higher. So there's no, and that's if I beat you in combat and if I destroy you, or if I destroy you. Also, the way the rules are written, if I'm holding an objective, which is 3 inches of the center of an objective, and I'm right on the very edge, you move within range, I'm just going to use the reaction point and move away. I'm no longer holding the objective, therefore you can no longer score Vanguard. In my next turn, I can move on to an objective. These are all weaknesses in the game design, including also the secondaries that don't math particularly well. Just spoilers for everybody. At some point, we are going to look at a sheet similar to this from the event at the weekend to give you some context. But I turn up to this very data-driven. I turn up to this having played 5 amazing games over the weekend that I've really, really enjoyed, and with the goal to talk about how many of us can play, oh, those are some spoilers for later, how many of us can play more enjoyable games. Now, I'm sure in the comments, many people are going to tell me, Rob, by the way, loads of people have already solved this. That's great. I didn't know about that. And if people have already written event packs, they've already written tournament systems, they've already written mission packs, they've already done a bunch of things, then that's super cool. And I'm really happy for you. I haven't seen it, so link me to them. And I'd love to look at them in the future because that's great for me. I can learn more, add more to what I'm doing, which is super exciting. So the core missions don't work. In addition to the core missions not really working, the core missions don't seem to have any goals. That's a little ephemeral. The scoring doesn't work is just true. The not having any goals is really more of a vibe check. What I mean by that is they don't really mean anything. There's no narrative link in between your missions, which I thought as Heresy players we were all really excited about. There's no real connectivity to the tissue of why you would be doing that battle or what's happening at all. And it's just pretty slim. So I don't think that there's really a good argument for why you would play any of these missions. In addition, if you were planning to play missions over the course of the weekend, or if you just wanted to play a bunch of games with your friends, like I do, I got a game lined up on Thursday. If you want to play loads of games with your friends, only having 3 core missions, pretty rubbish. There are a bunch of new missions that have come out in the Tactical Journal, the Journal Tacticas, the 2 new books that have come out. But if anything, they're kind of worse. So the missions are bad, in my opinion. Of course, I'm stating that as an opinion. If you don't agree, let me know in the comments below. But that's the basis. The missions don't work mathematically, so we can't have a fun and enjoyable game because it just doesn't make any sense. I put my stuff down and I just lose. Also, the missions don't give or provide a bunch of utility to different units and how they play. That's what I learned from a week early on when Heresy came out. I did a weekend of gaming. Nothing really worked. Nothing really was enjoyable. I enjoyed the actual mechanics of the game and the challenges and running around and doing stuff. That was great. But the actual design and the purpose of playing was pretty lackluster. So one of the things that happened was I was like, let's put this together and let's start talking about solutions. And the solution was obviously that I need to run a bunch of events and we need to create event packs that make a lot of sense, that are both narrative, they're both fun and engaging gameplay experiences. So I got together with my friends Oscar, Rebecca, and Toby, who play both AOS, Old World, and now Heresy with me a lot, which is super fun. And they've got their own backgrounds and places they come from in the gaming world. But with the missions that I've made for the Old World, which have been really successful, and in the past, either mission packs and or terrain maps that I made for AOS, I felt pretty comfortable with the plan to go forward, which is where we get into this bit, next bit, which is the solution, which is designing good missions so that people can play. So what we're going to do is we are going to chapter 2. That's where we're at, chapter 2. We're going to talk about the mission pack. Then after chapter 2, we are going to talk chapter 3. We're going to talk about the event that we ran using the mission pack. Chapter 4, we're going to be talking about the problems that came up and changes that we would make so that we can develop, because that's what we are. Now, the link here, this pack, I'll put a link in the pinned comments at the top of this video, so you'll be able to click it. And as you can see, it's Horus Heresy Pack V2. So this will be a constant link that you'll be able to share around, and I'll just change this pack link as time goes on. So like if it's a V3 or a V4 or a V5, I'll change this pack link. Okay, so let's talk about events or wargaming events. I know that the Horus Heresy community is very committed to the idea that narrative is the key point, right? Now, I personally don't understand how I build. I think the level of work required to run intensely narrative events is too egregious on a regular person, especially because the event industry isn't a fruitful one. It doesn't make a lot of money. It doesn't, which it requires a lot of time to do. Now, I don't personally think that like perfect should be the enemy of good, but I think that I created a bunch of Old World events. I ran one that had a bunch of rivers, and I printed like 108 feet of river, painted it all. That was great. That was really fun. It was asymmetrical. It had a bunch of really fun stuff in there. But one of the things I always think about is I'd like to meet my friend on Thursday and just play a game. I don't really, like, maybe big narrative scale events work really well when there's a bunch of people coming together to kind of get together. But a pickup game, like, which is what I call them, and events are really just a series of pickup games, don't really overly work when I just want to play at the club with my friends, like for a little bit. Like I just want to like have a game for, it's Thursday night, I want to have a game. Oh, it's a Saturday, we've got the weekend off. Do you both want to play a game for a weekend? Yeah, cool. Do you want to get a few of us together? We'll all play against each other. That's a good point. Missions, I feel, need to be something that you can just look at, play, and stop. That's it. And they don't need to have anything else. And obviously you can add your own story in at any point. So I think that's a key element of the design. Before we go any further, let's talk about some missions, some goals for the missions, because this is something that I think is inherently lacking in every Games Workshop product, is they do not express their intent ever And I think that's because if they ever express their intent, we would see that they're not doing all of the work we really want them to do as game designers. But I think having expressed intent gives you some idea of a framework for how to design stuff. And I think that we see that lacking in all of Warhammer. That's just not something they really see. They're like, we want a simpler game. I'm like, okay, cool, but we're going to release 700 pages of FAQs. You're like, that's not really, we want it to be more narrative. Okay, great, but we're not going to give you the framework for how to do that. And you're like, okay, that's a lot. So the goals for the missions that when we created the missions when making the missions, we had a couple of goals. Have a narrative, key element. Reasons to move your units. Now, no one likes a gun line. Gun lines are boring, they're unengaging, and everyone likes a fight. Now, I don't think this means that you shouldn't be able to create like evasive style armies like you've seen with like Wood Elves or with like bullshit Eldar that you would see in 40k, where you can play evasive, very fragile light armies. I don't know if there's a version that you could really describe that as in the Heresy. Even White Scars are just Marines at the end of the day. Maybe you would try and do something really light in like militia as an example, but I don't know. But you need reasons to move your units. You need reasons to be in other places. That way you can mess that up. That's really important. You can be like, I should have moved those over there earlier. Making a mistake is fun because in the future you might not make that mistake. It also leaves room for what we call emergent narrative. I forgot to move them over there. These guys are stupid. I did move those guys there. Those guys are clever. Like, it's emergent narrative. I'm going to move over there. You're going to move over there. We're going to have a fight. Emergent narrative. So you need reasons to move your units, and it can't just be the objectives are at the back of the board. Also, you can't just have one objective in your terrain, one objective in their terrain, and then one in the middle. So you're all just going to go fight in the middle. It's terrible, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. You need reasons to engage with the enemy. Now, there's a bunch of diverse reasons for that, and a bunch of ways that you can encourage that. As an example, secondaries, I quite like things like Giant Slayer or killing something big is a fun secondary mission because that might not be go hold an objective or go fight someone on an objective, but it's a fun thing that you might personally want to do. You want to go and destroy all the, the big vehicles. You want to go destroy all the big tanks. So that having a different win path or a different win condition or even secondaries is really cool for creating or engaging that. Then you want promote list diversity. Now, listen, I'm going to say something now, and I don't want anyone to be mad, but when you put a Primarch and some dudes in a Spartan and you just rush it forward, right, and you get out and you fight, I bet it feels amazing. Okay, I bet it feels amazing. But having played Heresy 1.0 and then a Heresy event this weekend and a bunch of other Heresy, sometimes I'm like, I sure wish there was some other way to play the Horus Heresy. Some other way in the world to play the Horus Heresy. So promoting list diversity means, and there's a bunch of different ways that we tackle this, and we're going to talk about all those things. Terrain density changing, making a Rebecca hit on a really clever thing to put lots and lots of craters down. They reduce movement, which is really good. So you can't just necessarily just zip all around the board in ways that you want to go, which I think is really clever. And I really like that as well. Giving different goals for different units. Like really right now, there's no overly important reason to deep strike units other than like you want to put some melter squads right next to a tank as an example. So creating reasons for there to be different units in your army is something we've seen actually work really, really well in the old world. In the old world, they added both objectives and also secondary objectives. And now we're seeing more list diversity with things like Tomb Kings as an example, pretty much always builds like a big block that sits all together in the middle. Now you're seeing little like diverse, like small fast units, and their job is to score table quarters or to go grab something called a baggage train, which we replicated in this mission. So having list diversity is really, really important, and I think we approach that in a bunch of different ways. Promoting army diversity is also an important one. That basically is us talking about the victory points. Victory points, as I said, some armies can't score victory points as well as others. With Vanguard being so weak, things like Custodes really, really struggle, because one of the things I really love about the Heresy is you have asymmetrical army win conditions. So, as an example, Leith, which we'll talk about in a bit, was playing Black Shields at the event this weekend. He had a win condition which was, I win. But mainly his win condition was, I want to get into fights with my little units. It was pretty cool, right? So really fun list, like win condition. So that was fun. But if we hadn't changed around some of the scoring, I don't think AdMech could have even remotely ever played a game. And there was 3 AdMech players there. There was 2 people playing AdMech, Connor as well. We were all talking about it last weekend, a couple of months, or about a month ago when we played for a whole weekend as well. We also came up against this problem as well as we're all playing AdMech and we're like, what's going on? So there's a bunch of problematic scoring. And so if the only army that can win on victory points is Marines, then you're not promoting army diversity. So we needed to change the scoring. And then making it feel like a battle in the Horus Heresy narratively, again, really important. I just thought it was worth re-expressing why we're doing this. And the reason is to make it feel like that, right? Okay. So first things first. One of the other things that we wanted to do was we gave out different prizes at an event. So I think the goals for the missions mean these can just be you playing at the local club. But playing at an event, I think this was a pretty smart idea. I decided I wanted to come up with a bunch of different win paths. What I mean by that is you might want to try and score the most VPs. Now, in many cases, this is quite difficult to do. You need a lot of line units, Vanguard units, a bunch of stuff that are going to go and grab objectives and also be very mobile as well. So you need transports and a bunch of different things to put you around the board. Now, you might write your list and be really clever and play the most strategic game, and we give you a trophy for doing so. Great. But we're going to give you an equal trophy for just killing the most stuff. So you might just write your list and be like, I'm playing word bearers. I'm just going to kill as much stuff as I possibly can. I'm playing demons. I'm going to kill as much stuff as I possibly can. I don't care about the victory points. I don't care if I lose. At the end of the event, if I end up with the most kill points, that's my goal. So when you're writing your list, you can just decide you want to kill more stuff. And if you just weight them as being the equal result, like that's the same win path. Now, obviously, if you kill the most stuff, normally you score the most VPs, normally. But sometimes that's not the case. Then we have a secondary we'll talk about later called Flag at Dominion, where it's the most quarters captured. We also have another thing called a supply drop we'll talk about in a minute with Quartermaster. Also from this weekend, we're going to be adding in like most duels, which dueling is obviously such an amazing element of the heresy. And if all you do is give everyone an equal prize. We also had best sporting and we also had coolest army, which I'll show you the pictures for at the minute because those are pretty standard tournament like fodder. Like you were the nicest person to play against, you were the nicest person, you had the coolest army. Those are pretty great accolades to get. I think that's really fun in that you just give someone a prize. Someone's suggesting in the chat, because I'm recording this while we're live on Twitch, that factions should have a permanent secondary objective, which is also a pretty cool thing to do as well. Like if you take the theme of every legion or every faction, and they have a secondary goal and all you have to do is tick it off, it doesn't mean you win the event, but this is redesigning or reimagining how events work. And the idea is you might win 5 games, but you maybe didn't get the most victory points. You maybe didn't kill the most stuff. You maybe didn't do the most of these. And giving prizes out for different goals really diversifies list diversity and army diversity. So these two things that we're trying to promote here. Because right now, the core missions don't do that. Okay. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully that's giving you some insight. So now we're going to start looking at how we made those changes. 23 minutes into the video, I'm pretty impressed that this is this short. So the first was to line. We basically capped line as only being worth 3 bonus points for the round. Now, having played AdMech this weekend, and when we start to look at some of the missions, I actually found this one not that easy. That was not that easy. Marine players sometimes found this a bit easy. Later on, this is harder. For instance, if I look at your army, you've only got two line units. I'm just going to murder all your line units. Now you're not scoring as many bonus points. It's pretty good. That's an easy thing to do. You're down points every turn. That's pretty nice. So that cap is pretty good. I like that. I think it was really good. Also, it helps with the math. You do not want someone to just set on 4 objectives, score line 2 for every single unit, gain 8 bonus victory points. It does real nothing. That's not useful. But you also want it to be in there because you want to make sure people are bringing their line units, their controller units, or whatever it might be. And then we put the reason we've put this in every time. So not only have we put our goals, we've put our reasoning for why we've put those things in. And feel free to disagree with them in the comments or have a conversation. For Vanguard, we changed this. This is really easy. I talked about the problem earlier. I can just stand on an objective, or worse, most egregious, stand next to my transport and I can reaction point into my transport, which will be an FAQ we're going to add in, that you're not going to be able to do that because that's insane, especially with assault vehicles. If you disagree, you're wrong. Everyone at the weekend, everyone was like, yeah, obviously that's mental, even the people using it. What do I mean by that is you can stand outside of it, you can move a massive distance, get out of an assault vehicle, charge, right? Then if you're close enough to your assault vehicle, in your next turn, your opponent moves towards you, you can just get back into your assault vehicle and drive away. And then in your turn, well, not drive away, but then in your next turn, drive away, go assault something else. Obviously, that's ridiculous. So that needs to get changed. But for Vanguard, we talked about the fact that I could be near an objective, you could just move off an objective, and therefore I can't score my Vanguard points. So we changed it that if you started the turn, you began the turn holding an objective, then you can score Vanguard against them. This is much better. Much, much better. It means once you commit to an objective, you need to hold an objective, right? You wouldn't see anyone else running away in the Horus Heresy. Maybe Raven Guard. I don't know. So these are some core changes, but we will be making a change to reacting into vehicles. So that will be something that we have learned from the weekend, which I'll talk about at the end for sure. So secondaries, we added 2 secondaries on top of the other secondaries that already exist. These are to help with reasons to move your units, reasons to engage with the enemy, promoting list and army diversity, and also a narrative. These all are engaged in here. The first one is one lifted straight from the old world, and we call this supply drop objective. Shout out to Rebecca, who actually was able to hobby one up by this weekend. So this is a 100mm base. And as she was playing Imperialist Militia, she had this objective. I did not get mine done because I was painting the actual terrain for the event. So the idea is, and you can see it here, it's a 100mm base that you need to control. So how to score, it shows you here. And then destroying supply drops is here. We're actually going to change this up. We're thinking of changing this up to 6 VP. But it might go even higher because I'll talk about that now. The idea is that each player has a supply drop. Not on all of the missions, on some of the missions. What happens is I need an extra unit to hold onto my supply drop so you don't go destroy it. And then also I need to try and destroy yours for bonus victory points. This is really fun. It's very narrative. In the old world, it's crazy popular because everyone just hobbies up an amazing like supply drop base. Like they if they're running lizard men, it's a bunch of mangoes. Like it's just very cool, right? Yeah, like someone in the chat post was just saying, I'm going to do a demon summoning thing for my supply drop. Very cool. It's just a fun little thematic thing. So adds to the narrative while also giving you opportunity to take units you might not take, like deep striking units that their job is to maybe go destroy the supply drop. You know, a cheap unit that's their job to do it, scores you some victory points. That's very cool, right? It's thematic. It adds something to the theme of the battle. It adds something to the theme of your army, but it also gives your army a job to do, and it gives you a job to do against the enemy army. It's super fun. Everyone enjoyed that this weekend. I really liked it. The second one was the domination objective. This is super easy. It's table quarters at the end of the game. The amount of table quarters you hold is worth a certain amount of victory points. If you score more than your opponent, if you have more in a deployment, if you have more than a quarter than, table quarters, I apologize. And if you have more in a table quarter than your opponent, you score more points. If you control it uncontested, you score more points. In a 4-turn game, it's not that easy to forget about table quarters. And this is a bit of a win more condition in that if I just kill all of your stuff, I'm also going to score this as well. But that doesn't matter because I'm already beating you. It doesn't matter. But it does mean that there are little units whose job it is at the end of the game, they have to make decisions. They have to be like, am I going to go forward and try and kill that last unit? Or am I going to retreat or move into a table quarter to secure it as the mission goes on? I think that's really fun. I saw that come up several times over the weekend where people are like, no, I'm going to move this here. I'm going to move that there. I'm going to move these units away. It also felt like an army doing a job. I'm going to secure the location. I'm going to secure some things. So there's also potentially some secondary objectives we could do in the future around securing terrain, a bunch of other stuff. But those are the two that we added because this added a bunch of additional victory points that we could play. Let me know what you think of either of these, but they worked very well over the weekend. So let's start talking about the missions, and you'll see that there's some narrative as well. So when we designed the missions, one of the things the four of us wanted to do was we wanted to make it so that it was thematic to a location. And obviously with the launch of the Saturnine box and everything being Istvaan themed, we made it Istvaan themed. The idea is that you are playing a portion of one of the armies that gets separated from the main battle force. That's what happens. And then over the course of the battle, well, you'll see, over the course of the battle, so it starts out with a clash. You see an enemy army also cut off from the main part of the battle, and you have a fight. And I'm just going to go through these. Then, because you're cut off, you need to establish communications. Then in the next mission, after you've established communications, you deliver orbital support. So then there's a bunch of objectives that randomly kind of turn on and off because they are deep striking down. Then for mission 4, you resupply from those munitions you got from the previous mission, which means you hold objectives for longer because you're basically static and you're holding objectives while fending off the enemy. And lastly, you need to evacuate your high command because Istvaan was this like watershed moment when you had no idea if your command was surviving, if your army was surviving, if the way, like what was going to be happening. It was a huge betrayal and a rifting of like supply lines and ideas, and you need your organizational command to evacuate. A question I've been asked is, did I love writing the italics fluff section? I obviously loved it. It was great fun, and it was also really fun putting these together. Also, it wasn't very hard to come up with a story. I think what's really fun about this is in the future, I'd like to do mission sets that are based in a location of the story. Like, I don't know, Prospero is such a boring one to always pick, but Prospero or not Armageddon, it's called some Ulanor, like Ulanor, a Forge world, a Death world. There's a bunch of different things that you can write and you can add these things on. But you'll notice that the maps are really basic bitch. There's ruins. There's barricades, there's 2 barricades, and there are craters. The craters are for slowing movement. The ruins are just so that you basically can block line of sight. And the barricades are just these fun little things because they look thematic and we wanted to add them in. But again, you couldn't move vehicles over them, so they slowed stuff down. So the first mission, as I said, because it's just a clash, it's your basic beginner mission in that you start 12 inches on, you start 24 inches away. There are a bunch of objectives. You learn how to play objectives. The one that's fun about this is your objectives are worth 1. Your opponent's objectives are worth 3. The middle objectives are worth 3, and your opponent's objectives are worth 4. So this gives you a reason to have to move up the board. Because if you take the center board, then you're scoring a lot more victory points than your opponent. Another thing is we put objectives super wide. It's quite a distance to go from your home objective over to a side objective. You have to go through a crater, which slows you down, or a barricade, or a ruin, which you can't move through. So it's slower, right? So it's slower. So you can't just, Spartan rush stuff. You can't just yeet everything on. It's harder to do, which gives advantage to faster units like cavalry or bikes, which can't score, but they can harass objectives. Maybe they can push on them early. Cavalry is a great conversation at the minute. So that's the first mission. And this is really good because this teaches. So there was a mission in Age of Sigmar, specifically this called Border War, which would be my beginner mission. It would always teach people, I should move forward because I need to score the more expensive objectives. I should find a way to sneak into my opponent's back lines because those are worth even more points. This is just a great standard mission design, which I think is nice. Also, this mission also had domination because narratively, the idea is I see an enemy, I try to beat them, I try to grab as much ground as possible, and dominate the board state. That's the idea. That's why domination is in there, because it makes sense in the story. The next mission, mission 2, establishing communications. This one is a little bit more complex in that there is 2 objectives in your home territory, 2 in the midboard, and then 1 in the very center. The idea is that you cannot hold the ones that are slightly into the like no man's land. You can't hold them until turn 2, and you need to hold yours in turn 1. And then you can't hold the middle one until turn 3, but you need to hold everything along the line. The idea is that you are setting up a line of communication to the communication beacon in the middle. That's the idea. Now, what's really fun about this, and my favorite part about this, shout out to Connor for doing this, is Connor did a pincer move, which I was like blown away by. Connor did a pincer move where he moved 2 units around the flanks and he cut off the second objectives for both of his opponent, or for his opponent, so that they could never score the middle, and then they immediately lost the points for that. It was great. It was really progressive. Seeing a pincer movement style tactic work in real time, having deep striking units to be able to go grab these back objectives, because if you turn off objective 1, you can't score the line, but there are bonus points for scoring both lines at the same time. This worked really well. I think it was a really good mission. It was a little complicated, but it was really, really fun to play. Super tactical, loads of fun stuff, very story driven, but also tactical. That's what you want. The third mission, we had Orbital support. This one is super fun. So after you've established communications, you need things to drop onto the ground. This is where we have 4 sets of 2 objectives, A, B, C, D. If you go first, then you draw a card out of the 4 cards available, and then if it's A, objective A's are the only ones you can score that round. Then after that, in turn 2, you draw a card again, and if it's B, you score B. If you go in second in that mission, once per game, you can make your opponent draw a separate card out of the pile. Therefore, you've got a bit of an advantage, not advantage, like it's not as much of a disadvantage in going second, because going first is a real advantage in what you can do. So that's super strong. So this is a super fun one. This is very similar to some RNG style missions that you see in other game systems, but as the other player, you have slightly more control. And before you even move a model turn 1, you already know where the first set of objectives are. So if they're A, you can immediately start rushing towards A. You can already deploy on A and deploy on D. So there's only actually 2. Big shout out to Toby, though, who was at the event with me this weekend, or with us this weekend. I'd forgotten to make cards, and so he found some Shrek 2 Uno cards that we used. I should have taken a picture. They were amazing. That actually made it the best bit. And then if you wanted to make them draw another card, you did an Uno card. It was very fun. But this is meant to represent... Now, this is definitely units need to move around. This is a big one. Units need to move around. And like, if you look between C and B, there's a big ruin. So if you've rushed over to go grab C, now you can't get towards B. And in fact, actually, in my game, my final game against Connor, great game, I accidentally picked the wrong, I Uno reversed, and I picked the wrong secondary. And then I was on B in the bottom right-hand corner, just above my head. And I wasn't able to go grab C, and I felt like an idiot. So like, knowing that I'd made some wrong decisions and there were better decisions to make means it's a really fun tactical game. It also told really fun stories. Yeah, it was very cool. So I like that one a lot. That was really great. So yeah, that was excellent. Oh, and this one also had sorry, I should just point out that the second mission had the supply drop secondary objective. So there was also, as well as holding all these objectives, I actually really struggled on this one, and I'm going to rewrite my list because I didn't have enough units on the second mission to hold objectives. And instead, I was holding objectives with just Vanguard units. So I was only scoring 1 victory point, which is really stupid. So like, I also just didn't have the right units in my list to do this very well. So that was hard. Also gave me a real good reason to want to take dreadnoughts. I love the idea now of like a dreadnought, just holding a back objective and just doing some long bomb shooting. That's a great little unit. Whereas before, I didn't really know a reason to take a dreadnought. Like, sure, a Saturnine is great with a bunch of grav cannons, or not grav cannons, like conversion beamers or whatever. But like having them just stood on an objective is cool. And Connor had one that was doing that, and I thought it was really fun. And then mission 3, so that used the Mission 2 used a supply drop. Mission 3 used again, you had to take as much of the board as possible. I don't think this one used supply drop. I think this one used... this one used table quarters as well. Then last one, it was, not last one, Mission 4 was Resupply. This is a really fun one. And again, you have to play this slightly differently. There are only 4 objectives on the board. And the idea is, and we're playing Hammer and Anvil deployment, the idea is that you just have to hold those victory points as long as possible, or those objectives as long as possible. Now, that's quite hard when people are just rushing into the middle with, like, I don't know, Spartans full of dudes, 50 Black Shield guys, whatever it might be. That's quite a hard one to achieve. And so you have to commit quite a lot early to make sure you hold these center objectives, where you've got to be really conscious. I almost took my opponent's, like, back objective, which I was really excited about, but I failed. So that one's really fun. And then the last one, Evacuate High Command, is very cool. There is a central piece of terrain. Got an amazing picture from Rebecca. Hold on, let me just go show you. Where is it? Where she got her high command in the central piece of terrain, getting evacuated out, which is very cool. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. And the story is, for this mission, is the center objective is also a piece of terrain is also an objective. Your high command scores bonus points for doing it. But at the end of the battle, if your high command is on the piece of terrain, you score 25 victory points. So you score a lot of victory points for being on that and putting your high command on there. So you had Primarchs fighting on there. You had just everyone was just throwing their characters in the middle to try and evacuate them off the planet. Super fun. And I had a great time. So yeah, I love this. This was really great. Very fun. I had a very enjoyable experience. One of the things I've noticed is I should put the size of the terrain in this pack, which I'll add in addition. So how did the event go? Well, let's talk about who attended the event and what we saw play. So if we just take a moment to look, we've got... we had Leith win the event. So the points, BCP doesn't have a way of tracking the scores properly, which is why we've got this other sheet, which we'll look at in a minute. Leith won the event undefeated. Rebecca came second with Imperialis, Militia, and Cults. There's going to be a blog post on thehonestwargamer.com, which will have all of these lists available, so you can go read them, and I'll put that as a link down below. So you can just go click that and go look at the lists. Leith's list we're going to talk about in a minute because it's a problem. Toby was running AdMech, Order Reductor. Nathan was running Imperial Fist. He had Toby was running loads of Myrmidons. Rebecca was running a big, was it a Baneblade? She had a super heavy and a ton of militia. Nathan was running Sigismund and a bunch of a bunch of soldiers in a Spartan, and he had a Kraknos as well, a Kratos tank. I was running a bunch of Ursarax in AdMech, which was super cool. And I had a couple of tanks, which were big flubs. Then Ollie was running, what was Ollie running? Ollie was running Iron Hands, and he had like some conversion beamers of Ferrus Manus. Really funny thing that happened over the weekend is what happened was Ollie's army kept getting pinned by just pinning weapons, and he just basically never moved his dudes. Never had a Nuncio Vox on his characters, so he just kept being pinned, and he was never able to move. And it was so funny. Like, it was so funny because people kept doing it to him and he couldn't move his guys, and it was hilarious. So always take Nuncio Voxes. That's something you need to remember. Then Fred was running Raven Guard, which is great, and Connor was running Emperor's Children, which he had Fulgrim running around. Ended up with Fulgrim and Ferrus Manus having a fight at one point, which did not go Fulgrim's way. Raven Guard running around and getting shot. Fred was having a tough time. So those are the different armies. We're going to talk quickly about Leith's army. Leith was running the Black Shields. So in my event pack, we are going to be making a FAQ because he was running. If you don't know, I have a video about how you build Black Shields lists, but when you run Black Shields, you have two different like kind of special rules that you can add, which was Alone and Forgotten and the Blade of the Just. The problem is this meant Leith's fully painted, just FYI, fully painted army of 1,000,000 Centurions, right? 1,000,000 Centurions. I think it was like 26 actually is how many it was. meant that if they lost combat, they got D6, or if they got killed in the combat, they got D6 plus 1 victory points. And if they won combat, they scored 3 victory points every time. This led to a huge disparity in victory points, in that the second highest victory points were scored by Rebecca with 281, but with Leith got 366. 366, with the average being 43 victory points between all of us and 38 victory points for Leith. 43 for Leith and 38 between all of us. So he scored pretty aggressively. So the FAQ that we'll put in the future, and I would encourage other TOs to do as well, is I would just make it so that you aren't able to take Alone and Forgotten and Blade of the Just, and probably we'll have a little relook at what else we'll do to Alone and Forgotten. The one thing I'd like to not do is make it so people can't play it, because it's wicked. I played against it. It's really fun. Loads of different guys, like, you know, they're trying to die in combat. They're intentionally refusing challenges, so they get disgraced, so they die easier because they're alone and forgotten. It's amazing. It's really, really funny, right? It's really good. It was super fun. I had a great time. Leith was really fun to play against. I think everyone just kind of over the weekend just kind of accepted. Leith didn't know how aggressive the point scoring would be. And so we had a fun time with it. Like, we had to try it to find out how it works. And yeah, there's also a more optimized version where you take a bunch of jump pack Centurions and you run around. So don't let those two things play together. That kind of changed the shape of the game. Some other fun stuff, if we could take a look really quickly, we can see that, and again, I could put this spreadsheet as a link so you can go check it out if you want to and see how the different armies performed. But one of the things that's really fun is these supply drops or table quarters. Like early on, Rebecca, Toby, and me, we all scored equal quarters at the end of the game. So we scored 30, with Connor deciding to never capture any table quarters. Nathan destroyed the most supply drops. He destroyed 2 and held 2, which is more than anyone else did. Or he destroyed 1, sorry. So he's the only one to destroy 1, which I think was Fred's. Again, Connor did want nothing to do with supply drops. And again, duels. Nathan was able to just score a ton of duels because he built a dueling army. And that's all he wanted to do, is rushing his guys to get into duels and win duels, which I thought was super fun. And you can see the victory point disparity in some cases, like Leith with 96 on mission 2. He also scored, what did he score? 80 on mission 1. The army just doesn't overly work in this format. But other than that, the scores are actually pretty close. So if you take a look at round 5, Connor got 39, Leith got 46, Nathan got 55, Ollie got 59, Rebecca got 56, Toby got 45. So actually, a lot of the scores are within, I would say, a pretty acceptable range, even if you're losing, which is pretty fun. So I quite like that. So that's the mission pack. So we did coolest army. There was only 2 fully painted armies. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about painting armies. Let's talk about that. And let's talk about smaller mission games. That's the next part. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Smaller mission games. The problem with the Horus Heresy is you need a lot of, I want to be really clear, fucking models. A lot. A shitload of models. Now, Rebecca's version is obviously a little OTT. Of models. Toby's AdMech, these are the only 2 fully painted armies. The only 2 fully painted armies at the event. Everyone else was allowed to bring unpainted. You were allowed to, you had to have them fully built, but they did not have to be painted. Now, this is going to make a lot of people mad. I'm sorry, but I don't want to have to wait another 6 months to paint my whole army before I can play a game. That doesn't make any sense. I had an amazing weekend. No one minded. Now, next year, I have put a ton of events up for the Horus Heresy. If you'd like to come and play some games with me at the TSN Arena. I'm in Nottingham in the UK, and we're doing them in 2 formats. We are doing a 750-point small format 1-day game called Squads, where we'll write a mission pack very similar to what we've done for Foray, which is an old world style mission pack that we've done, which sells out all the time. Everyone loves playing small format games in a 1-dayer. And we're also running 3,000 point full events. For the first 6 months of next year, I'm not going to require you to have painted your models. They need to be painted. They need to be based. They need to be built. They need to be based. but they don't need to be painted. There'll be more awards for people who have painted armies, but they don't need to be painted. Because I want people out. I want to build a community. I want to build a community of Horus Heresy players. And there's just no way I can encourage people to try the game at 3,000 points, fully painted, before they play. I can't do that. And I want that to happen. I want to see that. Now, the next 6 months of 2026, because these are the first months of 2026, 6 months of 2026, I'll say now we need to start having stuff painted. You need to give it a try. Maybe once every 6 months, I'll do an unpainted event so people can come and try it out and build the community. But I don't want to see people gatekeeping the idea of creating a community. I know Warhammer is difficult. I know Warhammer is hard. I know you got to paint a lot of stuff and build a lot of stuff. But we need to build a community of people playing Horus Heresy. Otherwise, it will just be a bunch of people bitching online about it and never playing a game. That's not what my philosophy is. I've ran 40 events this year, and I've played in, I don't know, maybe a dozen, right? I believe that Warhammer, wargaming, is about people taking their soldiers and meeting new people and playing games. So that's what I think they are. So these are all available on the tsnarena.com. Again, I'll put a link in the video below. I don't think anyone will have got to this part of the video, and I assume we'll get like 1,000 views on the video, but whatever. But there we go. But there is an award for the coolest army, because why wouldn't you want to have a coolest army for sure as well? So then small format games. We should play more small format games. Now, hopefully Games Workshop comes out with a full small format game. If they do, and it works, then I'll just adopt that small format game system, which is great. And I'm looking forward to that. But I'm hoping that's the thing that we can see in the future. Problems. Painting your armies. What problems did I find from the event? Getting into transports. Painting your armies. So we're going to FAQ that. Leith's army was just a broken problem. But Leith himself was like, didn't know it was going to be this strong. Well, let's figure it out. And himself has sent me amendments for what rules changes need to happen so you can still play it. Because I want you to play it. I want you to run around with 26 Space Marine captains. It's pretty funny. It's fun. Let's go. Who knows? Demons might be broken. Might need to have a little rules change for that as well. We'll figure it out together. The only way we can really figure it out, though, instead of just bitching at each other online, is go play games and play events, which is the mission. The mission is to mission. I'm fresh from this event. I need you to know what happened after the event. 2 days of full war gaming. We went out for dinner on the Saturday night, which is what we always do at my events. Saturday night, I got home. All I was doing, I wrote 4 new lists, and I built an Imperial Knight. I built an Acheron, so the big flamer knight, right? I had an amazing time. That's it. I had an amazing time. And everyone else in the chat was like, I'm writing new lists. When's the next event? I'm writing new lists. That, to me, is a success, right? And if that's not happening in your local club, use this mission pack. It's free. You can use it. I actively encourage you to use it. I actively want you to use it. We worked really hard on it. We'll be making adjustments, but hopefully it's something where you're like, yep, like that's going to mean I can play some games. Great. And when we do the smaller format system, we'll put that out for free as well. And hopefully that lets you play more games as well. But it's fun. Have a great time. Everyone go have fun. I hope you've enjoyed this giant waffle. Nearly an hour. Wow. Definitely not a succinct, punchy video for sure. And if you've enjoyed this video, and you think it's important, share it with more people in the Horus Heresy, please, because I want nothing more. Ignore the fact that it's my venue. I want nothing more than to see. I could only have 26 people in my venue. I want nothing more than 26 people playing the Heresy, because I want to see 26 different armies, right? That's what I want to see. I want to see 26 different armies playing, like running around, having a good time. Like there were no custodians, there was no demons. There was only one Imperialist militia. I'm currently doing a militia list. I want to see that as well. So like, yeah, I just want to see more stuff. So hopefully we see that in the future, which is cool. Thanks for watching my video. Thanks to everyone from this weekend, and a special shout out to Toby, Rebecca, and Oscar for helping create the mission packs, because that's cool, and I can't wait to see more of it in the future. So thanks for watching my video. See you soon. Bye.